I'm going to talk about, how to tap in to untapped markets. And I wanted to just set the stage for just a second real quick. There's so much, I feel like I can't not say this. There's so much propaganda around cannabis and whether it's good or not good. And so I just wanted to set the stage here. Cannabis consumption is good at any time. It's literally good at any time. It's good in the morning, it's good in the evening, it's good at night. It's good whenever you want it to be good. So we want to get rid of that stigma, shall we? All right, can we go ahead for the first one? Sorry, I didn't do I didn't do it right. I did a PDF. So I'm going to talk about two markets today. I'm going to talk about the Asian market and the Latin market. One of the things that I always notice at these conferences is that there's always a lot of guys up here talking about the markets that they're capturing, which I think is cool. I want them to capture those markets. But there's plenty of markets that already exist that nobody's paying attention to. So rather than going out and trying to capture markets, why don't we go back into our history, into our legacies, and bring the markets that already exist into the mainstream. So 62.1 million is the number of Latinx people in the U.S. as of 2020. 1 in 5 people in the U.S. is Latinx. And there's been a 23% population increase over 10 years, right? So when you're thinking about beverages, you can be like, I'm going to do this entirely new beverage, and it's going to be super awesome. I'm going to do this other really cool beverage that you can only drink at 5:30. Or you can say, I'm going to create a beverage for one of the largest populations in the U.S. And, oh, by the way, Mexico, right there, is legalizing faster than we are. So let's create a brand in the U.S., create those SOPs everybody's talking about, and actually go into Mexico with that beverage. There's such a huge market space for these beverages, for beverages that are not just seltzers, not just lemonades, but all types of beverages for existing markets. So I want you to really think about that when you're thinking about what you're creating for your beverage brand. We want this to be something that you're thinking about. Go ahead. So, $1.9 trillion in buying power. It's an increase of 87% in 10 years. This is the largest growing market. There is not an addressable market. There's not people addressing the market right now, except that yesterday, in case you were reading, Columbia Care is talking about this market. They signed Pitbull. They say that this is an unaddressable market, but they don't have to be the only company that thinks it's unaddressable. There's plenty of space for beverages. Of all of the Latinx, who has the biggest buying power are Mexicans. Mexicans' buying power are 56% of the Latin market. There is not a lot of beverages out there for this particular consumer base. Keep going. So know your market. Right, that's what's important about when you're creating beverages, right? Know your market. So we know that beer is the preferred beverages of Latinx. These are our drinking trends, right? And again, 1 in 5 people in the U.S. are of Latinx descent. 85% of them order beer. Then they followed by wine and then liquor. They spend $94 billion in packaged goods. And the best drinks are pina colada, pisco sour, and mojito. So why are we not seeing this as a market? Why are we not creating beverages for this market? We absolutely should be creating beverages for this market. Keep going. So there's a massive market potential. And it's not just for Latinx people. I'm talking about that because that's my culture. But every other culture has market share like this, because we are the culture. And people follow cultural trends. People love margaritas. Everybody loves margaritas. I mean, not everybody, but most people, right? So why aren't we considering that as a beverage option? Keep going. In The Asian population, it's 1 in 14 in the US. Here's another market share that nobody's addressing, but why is that? What can you do when you're thinking about your beverage, when you're thinking about what you want to create, why aren't you thinking towards these markets? And it doesn't have to be specifically like I'm going to create, a Corona beer, but in the cannabis space. But understanding what that market likes to drink is definitely incredibly important. Keep going. $1 trillion. $1 trillion is the buying power here. So we speak a lot about how we have to create markets and we want to, get the money from the markets and we want to do that. But these are very large numbers of markets that already exist. What doesn't exist is the products that they want to buy. And we see this not only in the beverage space, but we also see this in dispensaries, in products in general. People are, as Ben said, people are just losing money hand over fist waiting for federal legalization so that we can have interstate commerce. And they're waiting for all of these things to happen. And while they're waiting, they're losing money. And here's money to just laying on the floor. It's just laying on the floor, just waiting for somebody to pick it up. And you could be that person. You could be that person that creates the drink. And let me tell you that's important. The drink is so important to me. Because I want to tell you who's not going to buy a $60 eighth. People in Mexico. People in Brazil. They ain't going to pay that shit. They're not going to do it. But you know what they're going to pay for? They'll pay for a canned soda with 10 milligrams. They absolutely will. That's why Pepsi and Coke are like the highest beverages. They're going to buy that, and they're going to get you use out of that. And we want to be able to go to multiple markets, not just the U.S. market. Keep going. Here in California, I talk about the Filipino community because my co-founder is Filipino. Charlene, raise your hand. Woo, that's Charlene, Chef Charlene. Yes! If you don't know Chef Charlene, she's coming out with her own beverage, so be on the lookout for that. But they are literally 18% of the Asian population. And I'm putting these population numbers out here for you so that you can get inspired to be like, I don't have to make something that is, I don't have to make one kind of drink. There's many drinks that you can make. One of the things that I learned from Charlene was I had never had calamansi in my life. And we had a restaurant together, and she actually gave me calamansi for the very first time. She used it in her cooking. It's so delicious. How did I not know about it? These are all things that you can be thinking about for your culture, for what you like to drink, and say, how do I create this beverage for these already existing markets? $146 billion in buying power. $146 billion. Come on now. Last year, $20 billion in cannabis sales. This is almost 5 times that. And they are cannabis consumers historically. So why are we not tapping into these markets? What can you do to tap into these markets? You can start to do a little bit of market research with your folks, with people in your circles. What do you think is missing in the beverage market? Because there's really, at this point for me, there's nothing in the beverage market that I would actually drink. And I'm not saying that shade to anybody. I just don't like the way they taste. They're not my culture. And it doesn't have to be just my culture. I want it to be a good drink. I just don't I don't like fizzy water, so those are kind of out for me. But you'd be thinking, what do I want to create for my community? What do I want to create for my culture? And other cultures will buy that. Everybody's sharing everything. People still buy calamansi. You can go for it. This is the cannabis beverage market. Look at these numbers. Are they gorgeous? I love them. 1 billion projected U.S. sales of THC-infused beverages by 2025. There is market share here for you. If you want to create a beverage, there is market share here for you. $2.5 billion, double on CBD drink sales, double. That is something that crosses state lines. You don't have to worry about that. That crosses state lines as long as it's hemp-derived, right? That's $2.5 billion. Create that CBD coffee. I've seen it out there. Maybe you have a better formulation for that. Maybe you have a better idea for that. Maybe you're going to do spice latte. Maybe you're going to do pumpkin. But CBD, you can go everywhere. You can get manufacturers everywhere. They can ship it across state lines. Low barrier to entry. Wow, 60 billion. That's the expected increase in 5 years. This has never been a better time for you to create your own brand. Literally never been a better time. This is all the money that's coming. I love it. Yes, the godmother. Like literally the best thing I've ever happened to me while I was on stage. I wish I had that on camera. 40% increase in cannabis-infused beverages from 2019 to 2020. That's how much we increased. 40%. There's market share for you. You want to create that. But also look at the untapped markets. That's what we're talking about. Look at the least barrier to entry. And really, just like the gentleman before me, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, said, there's totally an ability to partner with these companies that are manufacturing to get your product on shelves. And he's right. You need a great salesperson. You need an absolutely stellar salesperson that believes in your beverage and believes in your story. So that was the end of it. I'm going to talk to you about some other stuff, but can you scroll back one more time? No, go this way. Keep going to the next page. Anybody who wants this, I know people are taking pictures, but anybody who wants this presentation, I'm happy to email it to you. All of our sources are cited here so that you can go do some of your own research. So when I say, and I just wanted to get through the numbers because now we're going to talk about the feeling, right? Whenever you're creating a brand, it's about a feeling. It's about how you make other people feel about your brand. And I'm going to tell you where we are today in the U.S. is you better be authentic. If you're not authentic, they ain't going to buy you. They'll buy you for a little while until somebody cancels you and then we're done. So you really have to be authentic in your marketing and your story about your marketing and the story behind your beverage, right? And you think, well, it's just a beverage. Like, what kind of story do I need to have? You need to have a story, and it needs to be a good story. I don't care what it is, but make sure it's good, because that's what people are really investing in. What is your story for your beverage? What do you want us to know about with it? What do we want you to feel when you drink my beverage? There's a ton of ways in which you can create a beverage. 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams, high THC, low THC. I mean, there are all those ways. But beyond the manufacturing of the actual product, beyond how many milligrams of whatever you're going to have, why did you create that beverage? Why? I would want to know that as a consumer. I would want to know, why is this beverage the beverage that you're putting forward that I should buy? And that is something that we don't hear a lot. We hear a lot of numbers. That's why I went through the numbers first. And we're like, oh, it's going to be this much market share, and we're going to do this, and you'll have everybody's idea of how this is going to work. And at the end of the day, and this is a true statement, it has been my experience, because I started in the legacy market. So I was not a legal operator when I started 7-8 years ago. And we've transitioned into the legal market, and we have a great story. It's an authentic story. So I want to make sure that when you're thinking about your brand, that you too have an authentic story, because it's important. It's valuable. That is your own personal IP that nobody can take away from you. Somebody else can formulate the exact same drink that you're formulating. Want to know why? Because all of these guys are formulating for people. So you might not have something that's entirely unique, but your story will always be unique if you have one. And so please, as you're going through this idea and the process and that 5 months that you're going to do to develop it, spend a lot of time on that messaging that you want to give to people and about your story. Anybody have any questions? Did I say it all? Okay, well, that was it. Thanks.